to rock this place.
Welcome to the last Buffalo Sports Conversation Room show of the season. We'll be back next season with more exciting Bills conversation. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, and ready to talk about the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs, and to let you know that my co-host, Joe Dalio, and I will be hosting a New York Yankees Mets broadcast in the upcoming week. Keep your eyes and ears open for that. So without any further ado, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going? How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you. It's very hard to believe that this is our last show, and hope you're doing well tonight, Jamie, as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been a fast, 6 months or so that we've been doing this, and a fun 6 months. So last football show of the year. So glad we're doing the baseball one too. So again, anybody watching this, you got a Yankees perspective from him, a Mets perspective from me. So stay tuned for good things with that. But a little sad that this is our last football show of the season.
I know, but guess what it means? That we're almost established now, and that we're going to be back for season 2.
That's good to know.
So are we ready to talk some Super Bowl 58, Joe? Because I'm ready.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things to talk about, so I'm definitely ready.
Okay, so let's begin. Now, with Patrick Mahomes winning 3 Super Bowls and only 28 years old, which is incredible because I'm 27 and hosting a Bills podcast, but it's all on there. Joe, what do you think is next for the Kansas City Chiefs?
The sky's the limit with this team. I mean, nobody's ever three-peated, and it's going to be very, very difficult for the Chiefs to do that. But it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. I think if there was ever a team that had a chance to actually, three-peat here, I think it would be the Chiefs. So many things about this team amaze me. The fact that, again, Patrick Mahomes is 28 years old and he's got 3 Super Bowls. There's already GOAT conversations that I thought were ridiculous because some guy named Brady I thought would be the GOAT forever here. Actually, some guy named Montana back in the day I thought would. And then I had to give up that, admit that Brady was the GOAT at this point and thought, nobody's ever going to catch this guy. And here's Mahomes with 3 Super Bowls at 28 years old. It's possible. I'm not going to claim it now. I'm not going to say it's going to happen. But certainly the conversation about this guy perhaps being the greatest of all time is not ridiculous at this point. Time will tell. He's got a lot of football and legacy still left, and still a lot of questions to answer as far as that conversation's concerned. But just this guy, nothing phases him. Playing road games now. This was the first year he actually had to play road games, and it didn't faze him at all. Comebacks and Super Bowls. This is the 3rd Super Bowl now that they've won. All 3 of them, they were down by 10 at some point of the game. So he can come back. He can play from ahead. He could play in warm weather. He could play in cold weather. He could play in Arctic weather, as he's proven here. So there's nothing that this guy can't do. And again, everything, I said this earlier when the Chiefs were left for dead. They were down. People were kicking them when they were down. That Christmas debacle that they had where everybody had the Chiefs written off. The Chiefs didn't have the Chiefs written off, and they proved that, again, nobody can match this team as far as the winning mentality at this point. Maybe talent-wise they can. There's better teams talent-wise out there, I think, including the 49ers. But will to win and knowing that they're going to win and championship caliber, absolutely nobody matches this team at this time. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Now, again, next year, things can happen. People can get hurt. They're going to have some turnover and they're going to lose some good players. But again, it doesn't mean that they can't three-peat here. Again, I'm not a Chiefs fan, and I've said that throughout on this show. I was wishing for them to go down and wishing for them to lose. That's still the case. I'm hoping another team in that division can even win that division and overtake them. But I have an awful lot of respect for this team that's just grown since the Super Bowl victory, and got to tip your hat to them. Love them or hate them or indifferent, whatever. This is a championship team. This is a dynasty right now. And there's no real signs of that going away anytime soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the thing that frustrates me about it is it just shows you how good the Bills are, too, that they came close to beating them there. We should have beaten them at home, but we didn't. So that's what's frustrating about it.
Yeah, that is very frustrating. And there's other teams probably having the same conversation, saying the same thing. We had them, even the 49ers. Again, they were up by 10 and had control of this game for most of it. And then just when it counted the most, the Chiefs took it over. And how many times can we say that? The Chiefs were down. Even going back previous playoffs, right? The game against the Bengals where they're down early and it looked like they were going to get blown out of their own stadium, ended up winning that game handily. And that's happened a lot too. This team, it gets down quick and teams think they have them, but no panic. They wake up at some point and get it together and just seem to know that everything's going to be good and that they're going to win. And that's, again, the sign of a dynasty team, which we're seeing right now. And again, dynasties don't happen in the NFL unless you're from New England. It just doesn't happen in this day. And that's what makes this even more impressive is this team is doing it when the talent level is so evenly distributed. There's so many great players out there. There's so many good teams that are championship caliber, but yet this one keeps coming out on top. And that's, again, love them or hate them, you got to respect them. And from the top of the organization down, they're doing things right. And they have that championship pedigree that goes such a long way. That's far greater than talent, in my opinion. And I think the Chiefs prove that here.
Good. Yeah, and speaking of dynasty question, speaking to that, similar to that question, what is a catch? My question to you, Joe, and to our audience is, what exactly is a dynasty? And do you think the Chiefs are heading that way?
I think the Chiefs are there. And I think with this victory, what is it, 3 Super Bowl victories in 4 years or 5 years? I think 5. But this team's there. You know, when dynasty in the NFL is dominance and championships. I mean, there's teams that have dominated. The Bills have been dominant, since 2017, 2019, but they got nothing to show for it. There's some very good teams out there. The Dallas Cowboys have been good for a long time. The 49ers now, even Seattle had great teams there. They won a Super Bowl, almost won another one, but those aren't dynasties. This situation is you have a team, again, that's winning in all situations, under all circumstances, beating great teams, winning at home, winning on the road, winning in heat, winning in cold. They, over an extended period of time, again, at least 5 years here, 6 years, that even I think Mahomes' rookie year, right, in 18, they went to the AFC Championship game and should have won that game. Actually, they lost. They were victimized by some guy named Brady and the Patriots, but that was the start of it. And this has just continued, and it's an extended period of time. I mean, like the Patriots. I mean, that lasted 15 years?
15 to 20, yeah.
And they won 6 championships. So this is a 6-year period, and they already have 3. So time will tell. They can certainly get more. And I don't think we're going towards a dynasty. I think we're seeing one right now with the Chiefs.
I guess time will tell, right? Because I
Right.
still think I still feel like the Bills will eventually get their Super Bowls too. It's starting to come into fruition. I think we will have our time, Joe, because I think Brandon Beane's doing a good job with building the offensive roster, and I think he's going to do another good job this year too in the draft and free agency.
Yeah, there's no reason to doubt that. I said back in the day when the Bills narrowly lost that first Super Bowl, the 91 Super Bowl against the Giants, they narrowly missed winning that, and obviously we know what happened after that. They lost 3 more in a row. I said back then, and I still believe this, that had the Bills won that first Super Bowl, I think they would have won at least one more, if not 2. I think they would have won one of those Dallas ones. That what people forget is in the 3 Super Bowls after the first one, the Bills were underdogs and they were playing so-called superior teams. But had the Bills got that first Super Bowl win, again, we were just talking about Super Bowl and winning mentality and knowing how to win. I think they would have won at least one of those Cowboy Super Bowls there and would have had more than just one Super Bowl victory. But not getting that first one, obviously they were never going to get it. So based on what you're saying, again, there's no doubt the Bills have the capability still to get that Super Bowl. And I'm telling you, if they do, that could open a door wide that could get them multiple ones going forward. It's just a matter of getting that first one.
And then there could be 2 modern day dynasties, the Chiefs and the Bills. Who knows?
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Have them be talking about a Buffalo dynasty. Again, just get that first one, which is certainly not out of the realm of possibility. And again, I trust the management and the direction that they're going and they're trying to go. And I think everybody's on the same page as what the ultimate goal is. And with that, that's a big head start as far as getting there. Now it's just a matter of finding out how to get it done and executing it.
Mm-hmm. So, with San Francisco losing 25-22 in overtime, Joe, do you think those Super Bowl windows closing for the 49ers?
Absolutely not. I think this team, they could have and should have won this Super Bowl. Even in the past couple of seasons, they had chances. They had teams that were good enough to win and just fell short, injuries and some bad luck and that. There's no reason to think that the 49ers can't come right back and make it next year. It's a lot tougher, excuse me, if the 49ers were in the AFC, that might be a different story. There's so many great teams there with chances. Not to knock the NFC, and we've seen some teams, rise up. Again, Dallas is there. But of course, we know with Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott at the helm, they'll go 12-5 and lose in the first round again. Don't count the Eagles out. Again, you got the Packers and the Lions rising up there. The Rams look good. Seattle's not out of the picture yet. So there are quite a few good teams in the NFC. But I still think the 49ers are, and the 49ers will be, at least for the next couple of seasons, still the team to beat in the NFC. And I would honestly be more surprised if they don't get back to the Super Bowl than if they did. So, we say all the time on this show, NFL windows are short and you got to make the most of it. I'm not saying they have the next 10 years to get things done, but I'd say in the next 2 or 3 seasons, that window's open. And I think they will get back to the Super Bowl and wouldn't be surprised if they won it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you see this team coming back?
I do see San Francisco coming back. I see a lot of, like I said, we see the Bills coming back. You see the 49ers coming back. And I think the 49ers are blessed to have a quarterback like Brock Purdy, but also have a scheme where they can just pound the rock with McCaffrey and kill 8 minutes off the drive to take some of the weight off of Purdy too, and then have him make the throws when he needs to.
Yeah, he's got a great supporting cast, including the Offensive Player of the Year. So, with McCaffrey there, with, again, solid receivers and versatile receivers. Again, Deebo Samuel, can, catch the ball, obviously, but he can run the ball. some of these receivers proved in the game they can throw the ball. So good supporting cast, and Purdy's only going to get better, I think. And McCaffrey's got at least a season left, if not more. So I'd be very surprised if this team doesn't get back to the Super Bowl.
Okay, and then Joe, I got to ask this question. What did you think about the Super Bowl commercials this year?
I honestly thought they were higher quality this year. And I was watching with my family, and they're football fans and enjoy watching the games. But of course, living with all females, they're they're big on the commercials too. And I'm always interested to see what's out there. And I made the comment to them, and we all agreed. It seemed like there were like real professional actors in a lot of these commercials. Sometimes you get creative commercials out there, but there was some big names in these commercials. I mean, anywhere from Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito to, my favorite was the one with Jennifer Aniston and the Uber Eats one, and how David Schwimmer comes in there and they interact. Just a whole bunch of real celebrity presences here. And I think they made the commercials that much better. Although one of the best commercials that I enjoyed and that my family enjoyed, there was a Kia one with the girl, the figure skater there, and her grandfather's missing from her performance. So dad takes the Kia and, she does the performance in his yard. And so he could see it. And, the Kia, the electric Kia lights up everything. So that didn't have the professional actors. But the great thing, my favorite part and our family's favorite part of these commercials was just the big names that made them fun to watch and great quality performances. I don't know if did you have a favorite that stood out from any of those?
Yeah, I think the Bud Light ones were good.
Mm-hmm.
That was good, going back to their original roots. The Budweiser bringing back the Clydesdale horses, and Doritos having a commercial again, which is always funny. Even though the Oreo commercial didn't really do that well, that was their first Super Bowl commercial in like decades. So it was cool to see them come back and do one.
Awesome. Yeah. But no, I thought they were high quality.
Mm-hmm. So let's see what we got here. Okay, yeah. There was so much that happened Sunday night. Joe, is there something that you would like to talk about regarding the Super Bowl?
Not much more than I already talked about. I mean, it was as far as the game itself, I was happy with it. I'm not a fan of the 49ers or the Chiefs. I was rooting strongly for the 49ers because I wanted to see the Chiefs lose. But I got basically what I really wanted was a high quality game. And there were some mistakes early, McCaffrey, who never fumbles the ball, fumbled it. And, Chiefs had a mistake too early, but both teams got it together. In fact, the best part about this game to me was adjustments. Something wasn't working for a team, and a team was getting beat in a certain area. And then later in the game, you saw them come back and completely shut that down and make excellent adjustments. So I thought the game was well played by both teams, minus a couple of mistakes. I was, again, very impressed by the way the coaches adjusted to things here. And I thought we had a very high quality, exciting anytime this, I think I didn't check this. I didn't hear anything about it, but from my own knowledge, I would think this was the longest Super Bowl ever. I know it was only the second overtime one, and I don't think the Falcons Patriots one went as long as this one did, because didn't this one go to the end of the quarter too? Didn't it go into a second overtime, or did
it almost did, but Kansas City scored with like 3 seconds left in the first overtime to win the game.
So I think it was the longest Super Bowl ever as far as game time is concerned. And I thought, it was exciting and a fun game to watch. I enjoyed it more as the game went on, even though I didn't really have that much of a rooting interest in the game. if we even the halftime show, that's always a topic of conversation. Now, I'm not a big Usher fan. Some people in my family are, and they had high marks for the performance. I thought it was good. I'm not anti-Usher, and I thought he had a great supporting cast. I'm a teacher of 8th graders, so of course, everybody in my classrooms that I asked about it had very high praise for that. So, as far as appealing to middle schoolers, they thought the halftime show was excellent, A+. So again, it entertained me, even though, again, I'm not a huge Usher fan, but I thought he did well. I thought, again, the supporting cast that he had was very good also. So even the entertainment portion of it, Reba McEntire doing a great job with the national anthem, I thought. I didn't see that coming as far as her doing it, but I thought she did an incredible job with it. So everything around the game, everything, again, as we said, the commercials were higher quality. I watch sports to be entertained. And that's what I want, especially with a big event like this, with the biggest sporting event of the year, pretty much. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was thoroughly entertained by everything having to do with this game, from the performances to the commercials and to the game itself. It was high quality. I really don't have complaints, except that the team I was rooting for didn't win. And the fear that I had about some Hollywood scripted ending didn't happen. So I was very happy about that. There was no proposal, anything that we talked about last week. That didn't happen. Of course, I as soon as the game was over, I shut it off, because it's like, okay, if it's going to happen, I don't want to see it. But it didn't happen anyway. But seriously, again, just I know I'm repeating myself here, but entertainment value from the game to everything around it, I thought was excellent. Better than a lot of other Super Bowls. So I was very happy with that. I'm curious as to what stood out the most to you.
This is what really stood out to me is actually a hypothetical question I want to ask you. So,
Okay.
Joe, what do you think would have happened if Kansas City would have lost with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce?
I don't think anything different. It's based on, I didn't hear anything about that. Hey, this could possibly happen. This was only just garbage going on in my head. I mean, other people were talking about it and thought it could, but I don't think, had the Chiefs lost that game, I still don't think there would have been any, of those shenanigans going on. I don't think it was ever going to happen. I think it was just something that myself and some other people were thinking about. And it sounds like there was no intention for it to happen. So, so the hypothetical, if you're asking if the proposal would have happened had the Chiefs lost, I highly doubt it.
Right. Because it didn't happen when they won either. So,
right. So, like I said, I think as much as, some of us might have been thinking about it, I don't think it was ever an intention.
Right. Okay. So, let's see. It is now that time in our show for our question of the week segment. So, Joe, would you like to give this try one more time? And we can celebrate.
It's the last football show. I got to get this right. So, yeah, I'm ready. Bring it on.
All right. So, here's your question, Joe. Here's your final question of this season of Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. Can you guess who this NFL player is? He was a 3-time Super Bowl champ. He played on 3 teams and was the only non-kicker in the top 5 scoring. Is it Jerry Rice, Marcus Allen, LaDainian Tomlinson, or Emmitt Smith?
All right. 3-time Super Bowl. You said he played for 3 teams?
Yep.
Okay. So he won the Super Bowl 3 times. I don't think Emmitt Smith played for anybody else. Tomlinson, I don't think ever went to the Super Bowl. Who were the first 2 you mentioned? Marcus Allen.
Jerry Rice and Marcus Allen.
All right. My gut was telling me Allen. Something tells me Jerry Rice won more than 3 Super Bowls. I'm going to go with Marcus Allen.
Nope, it was Jerry Rice.
Oh,
And Emmitt Smith did play for another team. He went to the Cardinals after the Cowboys.
okay. All right. Yeah, I was convinced. Even when you first said the 4 names, I immediately went to Allen. I thought Rice won more than 3. That's why I was a little. I thought, and Allen, I know he played with different teams, and yeah, okay.
He won one with the Raiders in the 83
but he only won one.
season. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good question. Excellent question. These are all excellent questions. And I guess my slump never recovered here, but we'll get it back as we go forward here.
Yeah, but you'll get a chance, Joe's. We're going to, as in our baseball podcast, we're going to do question of the week.
We're
going to continue that.
Comment on that. And I do know a lot more baseball trivia than I do football trivia. So
good, because I'll get you then.
Yeah, and hopefully I don't make a liar out of myself with that when the time comes. But I think I'll be. I got off to a good start getting these questions right, but the last few weeks, didn't do too well, and I had some guests bail me out too. So, so hopefully we'll do better with the baseball.
Good. But back to our regularly scheduled program, football. So now with the Super Bowl over and free agency just around the corner, let's take a look at what the offseason looks like for our Buffalo Bills. In lieu of the Bills' minor cap space problems and a definite need for a wide receiver, the Bills are expected to look to either free agency or the NFL draft to address that position. If free agent Gabe Davis doesn't return next season, the Bills will have no choice. Joe, what do you think the Bills will do, and do you think that Davis will return to the team?
I don't think it's in their best interest that Davis returns. I don't think he will. He did a lot of great things for this team, but besides, 3 good games this year, I mean, he was invisible the whole season. So just because of the amount of the contract and the level of production, I think it's a foregone conclusion that he's gone and he's not coming back. So where do they go for wide receivers? I honestly think they go both routes. I think they're going to draft a wide receiver high, and I think they're going to pick up at least one, if not more, receivers through the free agency route. I think there's going to be some good ones out there. I can't think of names or anything right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if a trade happens, if some guy named Diggs is gone. Again, that's something we may talk about shortly here, but there's no guarantee he's coming back. In fact, I think it's more likely he doesn't, but I think the Bills will go both the free agent and the draft route. And I think Gabe Davis definitely doesn't come back.
We do have a potential secret weapon that we drafted last year in the 5th round by the name of Justin Shorter, who may take over in that Gabe Davis role. We'll see, because he's built like Mike Evans. He's like 6'3", 229 pounds. He's a big boy too, and he's strong and physical off the line and yards after the catch.
I remember we were talking about him during our first couple of shows. When we were talking about who could make the team and things like that and potential impacts. So we were pretty high on him back then. So yeah, I think that's a good call there, that he may get a chance and may get the opportunity to shine and do so. Again, they have some decent receivers already. I mean, Shakir, he's had a few great games, and I think, you got to be careful before you put him in the upper echelon here. Certainly he's improved, and I think he'll continue to do so. So he's a good guy to have around. Shorter, and then again, just people they can pick up through the draft or through free agency as well.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? I want to circle back to Gabe Davis. I think there's 3 options with him. I think they can keep him, but I don't think they will keep him. And if they do decide that he's still going to be a Bill, I think they could restructure his contract too. save some money. We'll see, but it'll be more likely that he's released to really save cap money, and you don't have to pay a huge penalty like you would with Diggs if you got rid of
Right. That's why I think I think they will release him. That's why they won't obviously release Diggs, just because it's such a cap hit. I would not be surprised if Diggs is traded. I think that's the route that if Diggs does not come back, that's the route that they're going to go. That's how we got here, right? So I could see him being traded somewhere, and either for another receiver or potential picks or upgrades for other positions. But
I'm hearing that we could end up trading him and we get like a package of players plus another first round pick. So we would end up with 2 first round picks in the draft if we let Diggs go to a team that would give up their first round pick.
Right. And I don't think that's impossible. I think there's a good chance something like that can happen, because then again, they don't get the big cap hit or as big a cap hit. He's happy. He gets a new lease on life here, and the Bills get some quality players back for him. So I really think, again, I'd hate to see him go, but I just don't see him coming back next year. And I'm not sure it would work out if he did. So I think what you just said would be the best option if they can find somebody to do that.
Right, and if they can, they're going to have to bring him back, and the only way to do that is to restructure his contract. So
right,
you're going to have to take their pick with this one on Diggs.
Yeah.
So now, with Stephon Diggs turning 31 in 2024 and his second half season stats declining this year, and other teams' defenses were able to cover him. Plus, he wasn't being targeted as much because we changed our offense with Joe Brady, by the way. Joe, do you think it might be time to move on from the aging receiver? You already said that, or could you at least see the point of view where they want to restructure his deal and then just build around him with other receivers?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the end of the world if he was here next year. He could certainly still help this team, and I think he's still an excellent wide receiver. I don't think the age at this point really makes that much of a difference. I mean, 31, it's not like running backs where 31 is like 50. I think with a wide receiver as talented as Diggs, who's still got a lot of time left, I think age is not a factor. To me, it's the mental capacity, it's the attitude, it's the desire to be here and to play here. I think the same, we kind of had this conversation a little bit, not to this extent, but we had this conversation a little bit last year when he had the temper tantrums and there was rumblings about that he wasn't happy here. And he came back and put his heart and soul into it most of the time here. So again, would it be impossible for that to happen again, and for him and for everybody involved just to say, come on, we still got a good thing here. Let's make this happen. Let's get a Super Bowl with you here and at least give it one more year and give it a try. Again, that wouldn't be a bad thing, in my opinion. I honestly think it would be best for Diggs and best for the team to move on, though, and try somebody else and get somebody else in here. So would it be horrible if he was here? Absolutely not. But certainly wouldn't be horrible if he was somewhere else either.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think they should keep restructure his contract and just build around them with other receiver types.
Okay.
Take the load off of them.
Yeah, which they kind of did with all the depth. I mean, how many games did we talk about where, 9 people were catching passes here? I think in that last playoff game that happened. So the depth here, and you got a guy named Dalton Kincaid that is only going to get better here, and he's going to be, he could turn out to be like a primary receiver, a situation like Kelsey, and we've talked about the possibility of that happening, and I think it's more of a probability that it happens. So you're going to have a different type of offense anyway with him, and you can have the 2 tight end sets if Knox is still around, who I think is still pretty valuable as well. Plus, again, you can throw the pass to Shakir downfield. You can throw, the slot passes to certain guys here, and James Cook is good out of the backfield getting the ball. So you're going to have a wide variety of people to throw the ball to, and a different primary receiver. So that's another thing to think about too. If everybody's keying on Kincaid, and you got Diggs here, that all of a sudden they're not double teaming anymore, that could make a huge difference too. So that's something to think about. But either way, again, if Diggs is gone, they'll find plenty of other ways to distribute the ball, and there's no shortage of receivers that can do that on this team, as was proven, especially later in the year.
Exactly. And while Jordan Poyer is beginning his 13th season with fellow safety and his best friend, Micah Hyde, and Cam Lewis entering free agency, Joe, what do you think will happen with the safety position? Is this the end of the best friends, or does one of the best friends stay? Do both of them go, or do both end up staying? Do they convince Micah Hyde to stay for one more year and finish it out with his buddy Jordan Poyer, as Jordan Poyer has one more year left on his deal heading into this year?
Yeah, you want to talk about the need for major restructuring. I mean, if they could pull this off, then I'll have more respect for the front office general managers, whoever's doing these contracts, than I ever did. These guys have been the heart and soul of this defense. I mean, I know there's other guys like Milano and all them that have been a part of it for a long time as well, and that have made major contributions. But the heart and soul of this defense, I think, starts with Hyde and Poyer. And it's just been a joy watching them and everything that they've done, and the positive influence in the locker room as well, and to the community. It would be really, really sad to see either of them go, especially both of them go. I thought about this earlier, and I really don't know. If this is another team, I'm thinking we've seen the last of them. But again, the Bills have made these things work before. Even back when Milano's contract was up, my daughter is the biggest Matt Milano fan out there, and I had to explain to her, she's still a relatively new football fan, and how free agency and the whole business aspect works. And I was like, you're going to have to get used to the fact that he's going to be playing somewhere else. And pretty much a lot of people thought that. And somehow, some way, they did this excellent restructuring, which they've done again since then, it seems like. And he's not the only one. I mean, they've done some excellent restructuring with contracts. So I certainly trust that the Bills could make that happen again. It's just a matter of time. This one, again, I thought of, and I honestly don't know. I can't read the minds of Hyde and Poyer. I've heard rumblings that they just might retire, especially Hyde, because he's had the neck issues and some injuries recently. Poyer been in the league 13 years here. So, it's a tough call, and, we don't really know what they're thinking either. I'm not so sure they want to play anywhere else. And so, it's going to be very interesting to see. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with this. I would love to see them stay next year and try again and hopefully end up with a Super Bowl and then ride out into the sunset. But, we shall see. But I have full confidence in these guys doing the contracts that could possibly somehow make this happen. If it doesn't happen, then, I mean, again, they got a lot of depth there. And then again, these guys missed some games. So, it's you're not going to match, Hyde and Poyer, but, I think they still have some decent safeties there that would be able to contribute and grow in the position. But stay tuned, because it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion? What do you think? What do you see happening? Do you have an idea?
I think they find a way to restructure them, and then they play for one more year, and then I think they retire after that and see what happens after moving on after this point.
Yeah, and that's certainly possible. And we, we're going to keep our fingers crossed because I think every single Buffalo Bills fan would want to see that happen.
Exactly. So with expiring contracts coming up on the defensive line this coming season, Joe, what do you think the Bills should do in order to keep defensive end Greg Rousseau on the team?
Same thing. You're going to have to find a way to restructure and figure it out financially. I think definitely he's a valuable person, and they should do everything they can to keep him. He's young. He's still growing. He makes impacts. So, I think that might be losing him could potentially be a tougher loss than losing the other guys we were just talking about, only because, again, he's just getting started, and he's got a lot of time ahead of him. So I think the potential impacts are greater with him. So I think they definitely need a way to find a way to keep Greg Rousseau, and I honestly think they will. That one I'm a little more optimistic about. I can see him staying here. And the cool thing about this team culture is these guys want to be here. They're not. If this was 15 years ago, these guys would be hoping to get out of here, I think. Whereas with the culture and the team and the potential that they still have at this point, players want to be here. These guys have enjoyed playing here. They want to stay. They want to win a Super Bowl in Buffalo. They want to be part of this, the new stadium and everything that's coming up with this team. So I think you have that on your side. It's going to take some tough negotiating, but I think you have a good situation here. And you got some people that would want to be a part of that. And I think that's incentive in itself that these guys end up staying.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're not going to pick up his fifth-year option, but I think they're going to send him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Which means maybe having to sacrifice giving up Hyde and Poyer and things, but it's definitely worth it. Right. So now turning to comeback player of the year award. I know we're all Bills fans here and thought that Damar Hamlin should have won the award, but instead it was announced on Thursday that Joe Flacco from the Cleveland Browns took it. Well, he is an outstanding quarterback. I'm just not sure what he actually came back from, and I'm curious to see what your opinion is, Joe, on Flacco winning instead of Hamlin.
Yeah, as Bills fans and, a lot of NFL fans too wanted to see Hamlin get that because, he not only came back on the football field, but he came back to life, literally, So I think that's a victory in itself. And, he didn't get this award, but I think he always has that to lean on. Again, every day of his life, potentially would have never happened. So I can't imagine, being dead at some point and living life, the rest of my days knowing that I shouldn't be here. It's weird. So he's got that to fall back on. If you want the truth, I think the right guy won the award. Flacco was kind of out of football, right? And to take that team where he took them, he basically helped clean up a mess and a desperate situation, and took a team that just kept getting better as the season went on. Made the playoffs and had a disappointing ending to their season in that playoff game against Houston. But I honestly think the right guy won that award. If I had a vote, I would have voted for Flacco. I might have said that on the show here. Hamlin, I think this award should go to somebody who has significant contributions on the football field. And I think that's where Damar Hamlin was lacking. He's played very sparingly, just a few plays here and there, and didn't really have an effect, football-wise anyway, on his team. He had a very positive effect on the team as a whole. And if that plays into the award, then shoot, maybe he should have won it, because as far as being an inspiration to his team and to the entire league, I can't see any situations being more inspirational than this. Again, the guy was dead, and now not only is he living, but he's playing football again. And that's a major victory in itself. But I think as far as impacts on the football field itself and in the games themselves, I think Flacco is the right choice in that situation.
Mhm.
What do you think? Do you think Hamlin should have won it?
Yeah, I do think Hamlin should have won it. Just the fact that he was pronounced dead and now he's blessed that he's alive and playing the game he loves.
Right. Okay.
And he did come back to play, even though it was sparingly.
Right.
So now last week we talked about the 8 new head coaches jobs that took place, and our favorite head coach, Bill Belichick, still hasn't found a job. The 3-time AP Coach of the Year does have many options if he doesn't get an offer. He could take a year off, get a break from the action, reevaluate his situation, and maybe even get a call for a job if a coach is let go early due to poor performance. Or the 6-time Super Bowl winner could also take his shot at broadcasting. With all the knowledge the 71-year-old brings with him, he would be a shoo-in on any network. Or the last and possibly least choice for Belichick would be to retire. Who would have thought that he would be the last coach standing? Needing just 15 more victories to garnish the winningest head coach in NFL history, I don't see him leaving anytime soon. Joe, what direction do you see Belichick heading in?
All right. If I have my crystal ball and had to make a prediction. Now, first of all, I was a little surprised that he didn't get hired somewhere. There was a bunch of reasons as to why. He wanted too much power and teams were afraid to give that, or to risk that. So I can understand that. And teams set their cultures, and it's a little risky to bring in a guy like this that threatens to change that culture, So I see why he didn't get hired. What I see happening this year is that I think you will see him on the TV route, and he'll make his contributions that way. And I think that'll last this football season. And then I think, again, there's always that coaching carousel at the end of a year. Teams disappoint or teams' windows run out or whatever. And teams are going to be looking again every year. There's at least a handful of teams looking for new coaches. So obviously, I think that's going to happen again next year. And I could definitely see him, after the 2024 season, I can see him coaching in the league starting in 2025. I would not be surprised at all if that happened. So I think, and again, we could be wrong, and he could be coaching someplace in October. But I think he stays away as he stays off the sidelines. You see him on TV. He contributes that way. And then the 24 season ends and he's coaching somewhere else, starting with the 25 season.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen too. I think he's going to be on TV like a Fox or a CBS or something like that, being a studio analyst. And then I think he gets back into coaching in 2025. And I think what happens is what goes around comes around. I think the full circle happens. I think he gets hired by the Jets in 2025 after only coaching them for a day and leaving for New England.
Wow, that would be interesting. And certainly not out of the realm of possibility, especially if, let's say the Jets are competitive, or, let's say Aaron Rodgers has a good season and they make some noise, but they don't progress as far as ownership thinks they should. Robert Saleh's on the hot seat anyway, and I think this is a make or break season for him. I like that one, Jamie. I could see that because, again, if the Jets underperform and they still have a talented roster, what better guy to bring in there and maybe bring him over to the promised land than Belichick? So that's a great prediction, and I would not.
Which he could have done years ago in 2000 if he didn't leave after one day.
After one day, right? But I think the situation was a little different back then. There was no Hall of Fame quarterback on the team then, and again, this team is not too far away. I mean, if Rodgers plays well and stays healthy, and some of these other offensive guys, Hall plays well, and some of these other guys, and the defense is still good, then they could be a team to be reckoned with. But again, if they're just a few steps short and Salah being on the hot seat, they think he's not the answer. That's definitely a possibility. I didn't think about that, but now that's something to watch for. And I think I'm going to be looking for that. And
I will too.
Our audience could say, hey, they heard it from Jamie first back in February of 2024.
I would love. I get some pub for that, which would be cool.
You should.
Are there any other teams? Do you see them going besides the Jets?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of possibilities. I can't think of any now. I really thought Dallas would be the one. I could see. I didn't see Atlanta. To me, that didn't make any sense at all. I don't know, that situation just didn't make sense to me, and I wasn't surprised when it blew up. I could see him in a big place like Dallas, which is still not out of the possibility, because again, McCarthy's going to pull the same thing, and they're going to choke again. So, maybe think about some coaches on the hot seat now, in Philadelphia. Well, I'm blanking on the guy's name now.
Sirianni.
Sirianni. He's on the hot seat, and if the Eagles underperform there, that's still a solid team. So
Belichick, I don't think could ever get along with the fickle Philadelphia fans, though. That's going to be a problem, I think.
That might be tough, but I don't really think he cares much of what people say. So that, he's somebody that maybe it wouldn't bother. So I could see him in a situation like that, like in Philadelphia.
And as far as Dallas, Joe, I don't think he'd get along with Jerry Jones. That's the thing.
You want to talk about a major power struggle, and again, an owner. That's what the Atlanta owner said. He's a very kind of even keel guy there. I like the Falcons owner because he owns other teams too, and soccer and things like that. And I like the way he does things. And he just basically, without saying it, said he didn't want any part of that power struggle. So yeah, I could see maybe the same thing with Jerry Jones.
Joe, guess what? That actually ended up not being true, because my mom ended up reading an article saying that that Belichick didn't want full control. There was a thing that came back and said that he didn't want it.
Okay. Maybe that fear was there, anyway, even though he said that he didn't. So, okay, that's good. I didn't realize that. But I think there's going to be options. Like you said, the Jets is an excellent one. I could see maybe Philadelphia. I think that one would work.
Or the Giants.
Yeah, I think the Giants will have a much better season. We talked about that in the beginning, right?
Right, with Dable, yeah.
With the same thing that happened with McDermott here. Playoffs the first year and promise, and then they fell, and then things went back. And
what about Carolina?
I can't
Belichick in Carolina, but I don't know if he could get along with that meanie owner.
Yeah, I can't see him in a place like that. I think it's going to be high profile. That's why we're saying New York, Philadelphia, Dallas is high profile, but you're right. I think, there might be explosions there with the two of those two, and trying to fight for control. There's always a place like, well, not the Chargers, but if anything happens in LA with the Rams, I don't know. I'm not saying anything's going to, because McVay, I think, is an underrated coach, but I don't know. It's out there, and or even what happens if something goes wrong in Green Bay or a place like that, or Minnesota. Those are options too, because I'm sure the Minnesota coach is on the hot seat at this point. So you got a bunch of guys, just like every single year, where things happen and people get disappointed and windows close. Another possibility that, I know this team just hired a coach, but a lot of people are saying that the Washington hire is kind of just a Band-Aid, and they're kind of waiting for other options there. that it wasn't the guy they really wanted, because again, they really wanted the guy that ended up going back to the Lions, that offensive coordinator.
Ben Johnson.
So, yeah. So, what's his name? Quinn?
Dan Quinn, yeah.
Dan Quinn, that Washington hired him kind of out of desperation, because they had everything set and they were going after, Johnson there and had everything set. And then it didn't work. And then they're like, oh my God, what are we supposed to do now? And that's why they took Quinn, and people are wondering if that's a good fit there. So you wonder if that's a 1-year thing and they're just kind of biding time to get somebody else, as in, Bill Belichick. So I think there's a lot of options, and obviously we're going to have to wait and see what happens as the season plays out. But I don't think there's going to be a shortage of possibilities for Belichick, and that's why I say I definitely see him on the sidelines starting with the 25. I don't see him earlier than that. There's always some mid-season coaching firings mid-year. What if things don't go well in Chicago? Eberflus was a questionable hire. I think they did the right thing there, but some people question that. So Chicago is a possibility next year. You never know. And there's going to be no shortage. I don't think it happens before 25, but he will be coaching in 25, in my opinion.
Choices, my friend.
There will be fun.
Well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our show. Joe, for the last time this season, where can we find you on the social media landscape on Tuesday, February 13th, 2024?
Well, whether it's football season or hockey or basketball season, baseball season, soccer, cricket, whatever season, I'm on Joe Dell Sports on X, and just putting my 2 cents in on a bunch of things, and you can find me there.
And then, as always, you can find me, yours truly, on Bills Chat 1 at Bills Mafia Chat, and at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Doggangs on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I also call it the platform with the former blue bird logo. And DefiantTakesFootball.com, where I write stories about the Bills, Syracuse football, and spring football. I just wrote an article about some of the rules that are going to be in place for the first year of the merger. So look forward to reading that. Thank you much for very listening. And remember, folks, this is our last NFL podcast of the season. We'll be starting a New York Yankees, New York Mets MLB podcast in a few weeks. And be sure to listen for that in the upcoming weeks. And to quote our friend Chris Berman, for the last time this season and for the NFL, nobody circled the wagons this season, even in a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, like the Buffalo Bills. We'll see you in season 2 next year, folks.
Thank you, everybody, for watching us. We very much appreciate that.
And thank you to all of our guests for coming on, too. We really appreciate it, and we will have you guys on next season, so look forward to seeing us again. And baseball guests, get ready, because we're ready to have you on. See you guys.
All right, good night.